Chapter 25. Doubts. The adventure of the day troubled Tom's dreams that night. 4 times he had his hands on that gold. 4 times he opened his eyes and discovered that he had nothing. In the early morning, as he was in bed thinking of his great adventure, it all seemed strangely far away. It might have happened in another world or in a time long past. Then the thought came to him that the great adventure itself must be a dream. The amount of money was too big to be real. He had never seen as much as half $100 before. He decided to find Huck and let Huck talk. He would ask Huck no questions. If Huck did not speak of the adventure, then Tom would know that it had been a dream. Huck was sitting on the edge of a boat with his feet in the water. He seemed very sad.
"Hello, Huck." "Hello yourself."
No words for a minute.
"Tom, if we had not put our gardening things in that corner, we would have that money." "It was not a dream. It was not a dream. But I almost wish that it was." "Dream. If Indian Joe had found us, you would know that it was not a dream. I have had dreams about him all night." "We must find him, find the money. We must find his number 2 place. Perhaps it is the number of a house." "No, Tom, the houses in this town do not have numbers." "Perhaps it is the number of a room in a public house for travelers. Those rooms have numbers." "Oh, that is the answer. There are only 2 public houses here. We can quickly learn about number 2. You stay here, Huck, until I return."
Tom was gone half an hour. He learned that in one public house a well-known young man lived in room number 2. But in the other public house, number 2 was always closed. No person seemed to know much about it. However, a light had been seen in the window the night before.
"That is Indian Joe's number 2, Huck." "I think you are right, Tom. Now what will you do?" "Let me think."
Tom thought a long time. Then he said,
"I will tell you. The door of number 2 opens on a little street at the back of the house. We must wait for a dark night. Then we shall try to get in. But if you see Indian Joe, follow him. And if he does not go to that number 2, it can't be the place." "I am afraid to follow him alone, Tom." "It will be night. If I see him, and if it is dark, I will follow him. I promise. He might be going straight to that money. You must not weaken, Huck, and I won't."
Chapter 26. Number 2. Huck as guard. They waited 3 nights. The 4th night was dark enough. The public house was closed at a late hour, but Tom and Huck were near. Indian Joe had not been seen. No other person had been seen in the street behind the house. The 2 adventurers moved quietly toward the door in the darkness. Huck stopped to remain as a guard, and Tom went forward. Then there was a long wait. To Huck, it seemed like hours. What had happened to Tom? Had he died from fear? Huck's breathing was very fast, and his heart beat madly. Suddenly, Tom came rushing out.
"Run! Run for your life!"
They never stopped running until they were at the other end of the village. There stood an old building, now not used. As they entered, rain began to fall heavily.
"Huck, it was fearful. I tried and tried to open the door, and then suddenly it opened without effort. I stepped into the room, and, Huck, I almost stepped on Indian Joe's hand."
"No."
"Yes. He was there, asleep on the floor, drunk, I believe. I turned and ran."
"Tom, did you see that box?"
"Huck, I did not wait to look around. I did not see the box. I did not see any cross. I only saw a cup on the floor beside Indian Joe and more to drink. The room is full of it." "Tom, if Indian Joe is drunk, Now is the time to get that box. Is it? You get it. Huck began to shake. No, I believe not. And I believe not, Huck. Listen, Huck, wait until we know that Indian Joe is not in there. We can watch every night. Then we can go fast and get that box. I agree. Let me watch all night and every night. You do the other part of the job. I will. And now the rain has stopped. You go and watch. And when you want me at night, come to my window and make a noise like a cat.
Chapter 27. The Picnic. Indian Joe's Job. The next morning Tom heard glad news. Judge Thatcher's family had returned. Both Indian Joe and the box of gold were not so important for a while. More good news made the day perfect. The following day Becky would have her picnic. Before 11 in the morning, the young people were at Judge Thatcher's house, ready to start. Soon the happy group was walking toward the river. They were going to ride down the river on the old riverboat. Sid did not go. He was sick. Mary stayed with him. Mrs. Thatcher said to Becky, "You'll return late. Perhaps you should stay all night at the home of a girlfriend who lives near the river."
I can stay with Susie Harper, Mother.
Good. And be a good girl. The boat took them 3 miles down the river, where it was tied to the shore. The crowd ran off the boat and into the forest. Soon shouting and laughing could be heard from many places. After a while all were hot and ready to rest. They met again near the boat and began to eat the good things they had brought with them. After eating, they rested in the shade of the big trees. Then there was a shout. "Who's ready to go to the cave?" All were ready. They got lights to guide them in the darkness and started to walk up the hill. The cave could be entered through an opening in the hillside. A door had been placed across the opening, but it was not closed. Inside was a small, very cold room. The walls were rock and always had water running down them. It was a strange pleasure to stand there in the darkness and look out at the green valley shining in the sunlight. But the strangeness was soon past, and the children began to play and run through other parts of the cave. None of these parts was wide, and some were very small. Some led to other rooms made of rock. Some of these were very big. The children could not see the top of them. A person might walk days and nights and never find the end of this cave. He might go down and yet further down into the earth, always finding new parts and new rooms. No person knew the whole cave. Only part of it was known, and people did not go where others had not gone before. Tom Sawyer knew as much of the cave as any person. The children walked for almost a mile before any of them started to return to the outside. Then one group after another began arriving at the opening on the hillside. They were surprised to see that it was almost night. The boat's bell had been calling for half an hour. However, they thought this end of the day's adventures was delightful. Only the captain of the boat was sorry that he had waited so long. Huck saw the lights of the returning riverboat. He was already watching for Indian Joe. There were clouds in the sky, and the night was becoming very dark. The people in the village began to go home to sleep. The village clock was striking 11, and nothing had happened. Huck also began to think of sleep. Then a noise came to his ear. The next moment 2 men passed near him. One was carrying something. It must be that box. Should he call Tom? No. The men would carry away the box, and it would never be found again. He would follow them. Without shoes, as usual, Huck moved as quietly as a cat. The men went toward the river, and then, turning, went up Cardiff Hill. Passing the house of an old man named Jones, they arrived at the top of the hill. There, among the trees,
They could not be seen. Huck stopped, listened, but heard no sound except his own heart. He knew that he was not far from the house of Mrs. Douglas, an old lady who lived alone. Then, very near, he heard a voice. It was Indian Joe. He said, "There are lights. It is late, but she is not alone."
"I can't see any lights."
That was the other man. Huck's heart was cold. This was the job Indian Joe had talked of? Mrs. Douglas had often been kind to Huck. Perhaps these men were planning to kill her. He wished that he had dared to run to the house and tell her, but the men would catch him.
"Look from here," said Indian Joe. "Now do you see the lights?" "Yes. Forget the job." "Forget it. I have told you before. You can have her money. I do not want it. But her husband put me in jail. Then he died. I can't hurt him, but she is living yet." "You must not kill her." "I will not kill her, but I am going to cut her face, and that hurts a woman more than killing. You will help me, or I will kill you. And if I must kill you, I will kill her too. Then she can't tell who killed you." "If we must do it, then do it now." "No. Wait until the house is dark."
Huck knew that all would be quiet, and the quiet would be more fearful than the talk of killing. Very, very carefully, he moved down the hill. When he dared, he began to run. He arrived at Mr. Jones's house and beat on the door. Mr. Jones and his two strong sons opened a window and looked out.
"What is that noise? Who are you? What do you want?" "Let me in, quick." "Who are you?"
"Huckleberry Finn. Quick, let me come in."
"Huckleberry Finn, indeed. Is that a name to make me open a door? But let him come in, boys. What does he want?"
"Please never tell that I told you," were Huck's first words. "I would surely be killed, but Mrs. Douglas has been a good friend to me. I want to tell you."
"Speak," said the old man. "We will never tell, boy."
3 minutes later, the old man and his sons, carrying guns, were going up the hill. Huck went only part of the way. Then he stopped behind a large stone and listened. Suddenly he heard the guns and a cry. He waited for nothing more, but ran down the hill as fast as his legs could carry him. Chapter 28. The old man reports. Hope begins to weaken. The next day was Sunday. In the very early morning, Huck called gently at the old man's door. "Please, let me come in. It's only Huck Finn."
"That name will open this door night or day, boy."
These were strange words to the boy's ears. He could not remember hearing any so kind and pleasant before. The door was quickly opened, and he entered.
"Now, boy, I hope that you're hungry, 'cause as soon as the sun comes up, we'll have something hot to eat. We hoped that you would come here again last night."
"When I heard the guns, I ran. I ran for 3 miles. I came now because I want to know what happened. I came before daylight because I do not want to meet those men, living or dead."
"They are not dead, boy. We are sorry for that. They heard us coming, and they ran. Then we went down to the village to get help. Men have gone to watch at the river. More men will hunt through the forest today. My sons will join them. I wish we had seen those 2 men. Could you see them in the dark?"
"I can tell you about them. One is a man that you have seen in the village. He has long white hair, and he can't hear, and he can't talk." Then he told about the other man's face and clothes. When his sons had gone, Mr. Jones asked Huck why he had followed the men up the hill. Huck told, after much thought, that one man was Indian Joe. But he did not tell about the box of money. Soon people began coming to the house, and Huck went where they could not see him. Mrs. Douglas was among the first to come. She came to thank Mr. Jones for saving her from being hurt by the men.
You should not thank me," he said. "There's another person who did more to help you, but he does not want thanks."
All the people in the village went to church early that day. They wanted to talk about the two bad men. The two men had not been found, and nothing had been learned about where they had gone. Leaving the church, Mrs. Thatcher walked behind Mrs. Harper. She said,
"Is my Becky going to sleep all day?"
Your Becky?
"Yes, she stayed with you last night, I believe."
No.
Mrs. Thatcher stopped suddenly. She seemed ill. At that moment, Aunt Polly joined them. She said,
"Good morning, Mrs. Thatcher. Good morning, Mrs. Harper. I suppose that my Tom stayed with Fred or Joe last night without telling me, and now he is afraid to come to church."
Mrs. Thatcher seemed more ill than before. She moved her head, saying no. "He did not stay with us," said Mrs. Harper. Her face showed surprise and a little fear. Aunt Polly also showed fear.
"Joe Harper,"
she said,
"have you seen my Tom this morning?"
"No."
"When did you see him last?"
But Joe could not remember. People had stopped moving out of the church. The story traveled quickly among them. Children were questioned. No child could remember seeing Becky and Tom on the returning riverboat. It was dark then. No person had thought of counting the group. A young man now said that Tom and Becky might be lost in the cave. Mrs. Thatcher closed her eyes tightly. Aunt Polly began to weep. Within 5 minutes, bells were ringing and all the people were gathering. What had happened at Mrs. Douglas's house was not important now. In half an hour, 200 men were going either by river or by road toward the cave. Through the long afternoon, the village seemed dead. Many women went to visit Aunt Polly and Mrs. Thatcher. They wept with them, and that was more help than words. Through the long night, the town waited for news. But in the morning, only this news came: send more food and more lights. Mrs. Thatcher was almost ill, and Aunt Polly also. Old Mr. Jones came home from the cave at noon and discovered that Huck was sick. Mrs. Douglas came to care for him. Other men began to return from the cave, but the stronger men continued their hunt. They visited the far parts of the cave. They shouted, they shot guns, but they had no answer. Often a light would be seen far away, and they would think that the children were found. But the light always belonged to another of the hunters. The names Becky and Tom were found marked on a rock, and the string that had tied Becky's hair was found. 3 days and nights passed. Huck asked about Tom Sawyer. Mrs. Douglas said,
"Quiet, child, you must not talk. You are very sick."
She began to weep. There were not many now with enough hope or strength to continue hunting for Tom Sawyer. Chapter 29. Lost in the Cave. Found but not saved. Tom and Becky had started through the branching cave with the other children. Then they had had enough of the games with the others. They had walked farther, talking and reading the writing on the walls. People had put their names there. Tom and Becky also put their names on the wall. They came to a place where a small stream of water fell over the rocks. Tom went behind the waterfall to let his light shine through for Becky's pleasure. Behind this waterfall, Tom found an opening leading down, and he wanted to discover where this branch of the cave went. He made a mark on the wall to guide their return and started down, with Becky following. They continued farther and farther, making marks where they turned into a new branch, and discovering many wonderful new parts of the cave. One great room was full of hundreds of bats, which were hanging, asleep on the walls. When the children entered, the bats came flying at the lights, and the children ran. They came to a dark lake and sat down at the edge. Now, for the first time, they felt the deep quiet of the place. Becky said,
"It is a very long time since I heard the others." "Becky, we are far below them, and far north or south or east or west. We can't hear them here."
Becky was afraid.
"We should return. Can you find the way, Tom?" "I think that I can. But there are those bats. A different way would be better." "We must not get lost. It would be fearful."
They started, but every turn now seemed strange. Becky's tears began to fall. They stopped. Tom shouted. The answer was a deep quiet. It increased Becky's fear, and Tom began now to feel afraid. Becky said,
"We must return to the lake, and then go through the room full of bats. It would be better than being lost."
But Tom said,
"Becky, I've been a fool."
He had not remembered to make any marks. He had not expected to return to the lake.
Tom, we are lost. We are lost. We never can get out of this fearful place. Oh, why did we leave the others?"
She dropped to the ground and wept so loudly that Tom feared that she might die. He sat down beside her and put his arms around her. He said that he was sorry. He said that he should never have brought her so far into the cave. Then she said that she also had been wrong. They had both been wrong to come so far. They started to walk again. Each had a light. Now they decided to use only one light and save the other. They walked until they could go no further without resting. They talked of home, and their friends, and their beds, and they talked of sunlight. Becky's tears started again, and then she was asleep. Tom watched her. Slowly, her face grew peaceful, and then he felt some peace. She opened her eyes, laughing, but suddenly the laugh ended.
"Oh, I wish that I had never opened my eyes again. Oh, Tom, do not look at me like that. I shall not say that again." "We are going to find the way," Tom said. "We are going to try."
They rose and started to walk, hand in hand, and without hope. Tom said that they must go quietly and listen for falling water. They found it, and sat down to rest again. Becky said,
"Tom, I'm very hungry."
Tom had saved a piece of the picnic cake. He took it from his pocket and divided it. They had cold water to drink. After eating and drinking, Becky was ready to move again. But Tom said,
"Becky, I must tell you, our light is almost finished. We must stay here, where there is water."
Again Becky wept. Then a new thought came to her.
"Tom, they will hunt for us. Perhaps they are hunting for us now. When would they discover that we were not with the others? On the boat? It'll be dark on the boat, but your mother will know that you have not come home."
Now Tom learned that Mrs. Thatcher did not expect Becky to return home that night. Then their last light failed and darkness was complete. Becky wept a long time in Tom's arms. Neither knew how long she wept. Then both opened their eyes in the darkness and knew that they had been sleeping. Again,
they did not know how much time had passed. Tom said that it might be Sunday. It might be a day later. But Becky would not talk. Her hopes were gone. The hours passed. They were hungry again. Tom had saved most of his share of the cake. He divided it. Then they heard a sound like a distant shout. Tom answered. It came again. They started moving carefully towards it. But they arrived at an edge of rock where the floor fell away. They could go no further. They listened. The distant shout was now more distant. And then they did not hear it again. They returned to the place where they had water to drink. Time passed. After sleeping again, when they opened their eyes, they thought that another day must have passed. They were very hungry. Now Tom had a new idea. The cave had many small branches near them. Tom decided to learn about them. That would be better than sitting and doing nothing. He had some string in his pocket. He tied an end of this to a rock near the little waterfall. Then he and Becky started to walk carefully away. They let the string fall behind them. It would be a guide for their return. After 20 steps, they came to a hole in the rock floor. Tom went down on his knees and felt below. Then he put his hands and his head as far as possible around the corner to look. At that moment, a human hand holding a light appeared from a rock not far away. Tom shouted. At once, a body followed the hand. It was Indian Joe. Tom could not move because of fear. He was deeply thankful to see Indian Joe run away. He did not tell Becky what he had seen or why he had shouted. They returned to the waterfall. But after another long wait and another sleep, Tom decided to try moving again. They were very hungry now. He thought that perhaps a week had passed. Becky was not strong enough to go with him. She asked him to return often. She also asked him to return when all hope was gone and to hold her hand until she died. Tom promised. He kissed her. Then, with the string in his hand, he started on his hands and knees through one of the openings in the rock. He was sick with fear, and he had no hope. Chapter 30. Tom tells the story of their escape. Sunday, and 2 more days had passed. Few of the men continued their hunt in the cave. Most of the people believed that the children could never be found. Mrs. Thatcher was very ill. Aunt Polly's hair had changed from gray to white. Then, in the middle of the night, the village bells began to ring. In a moment, the streets were filled with people shouting, "They're found! They're found! They're found!" All moved toward the river and met the children as they were carried home. Aunt Polly's happiness was complete. Mrs. Thatcher's happiness would be complete when the news reached her husband. He was yet in the cave continuing the hunt. Tom lay on a bed telling the story of his wonderful adventures. They had gone in one direction as far as the length of the string. Then he had tried another opening. Then he had tried a third. He was ready to try another when he saw a distant light. He thought that it was daylight. He dropped the string and ran toward it, and put his head out through a small hole. And there was the great river on which the boat had brought them to the picnic. He told how he then returned for Becky. She did not believe him. She told him to let her die. But after a while she went with him. When she saw the daylight, she almost died of joy. He told how he got himself through the hole,
and then helped her. They saw some men in a boat and shouted. At first the men didn't believe their wild story, because, the men said, you are 5 miles south of the door of the cave. But they believed the children after a while, and took them to a house where they were given food and allowed to rest before being taken home. It was several days before Tom and Becky were strong again. Tom learned of Huck's sickness and went to visit him. Mrs. Douglas would not let Tom talk about his adventures because Huck was not strong enough to listen. Also, she would not let the boys talk about what had happened at her house on Cardiff Hill. Tom learned about that at home. He heard also that the other man, who had been with Indian Joe, had been found in the river. He had drowned while trying to escape. About 2 weeks later, Tom visited Becky at home. Judge Thatcher and some friends were there. They asked Tom if he wished to go into the cave again. Tom said yes.
Others might wish to go also, the judge said, but I had that door covered with iron, and it is closed. It can't be opened. No person will get lost in that cave again.
Oh, Judge, Tom said, Indian Joe is in the cave.
Chapter 31. What Happened to Indian Joe? A Return to the Cave. The news spread. In a few minutes, men were in boats on their way to the cave. Tom was in the boat with Judge Thatcher. When the door was opened, their eyes saw a sad sight. Indian Joe was on the ground, dead. Tom's experience in the cave made him understand Indian Joe's sufferings. But a heavy weight of fear had been lifted from Tom's heart. The next morning, Tom and Huck had an important talk. Now Huck told Tom about following Indian Joe up the hill to Mrs. Douglas's house. This part of the story was new to Tom.
And Indian Joe came from number 2 in that public house, Huck said. And now we shall never know any more about that box of money.
Huck,
Tom said,
that money was never in number 2. Huck, it is in the cave.
Say that again, Tom.
The money is in the cave.
Tom, is this true?
It is true, Huck. Will you go there with me and help to bring it out?
I will if I can go to the cave and not get lost.
Are you strong enough? Tom asked.
I can't walk more than a mile, Tom.
It is 5 miles, Huck, for any other person, but I know a shorter way. I'll take you there in a boat. It'll be easy for you.
I want to start now, Tom.
Tom agreed.
We want some bread and meat and our tobacco, and 2 bags, and some string and some lights.
They took a friend's boat, and about noon the boys started their journey. Tom knew where to stop. They pulled the boat up on the shore.
Huck, the hole is near. Try to find it.
Huck tried and found nothing. Then Tom proudly took him among the trees and said,
Here it is.
The boys entered the hole. Tom was leading. They tied their string to a rock to guide their return. A few steps took them to the little waterfall, and Tom felt his whole body shaking. He told Huck that this was where he and Becky had been when they were lost. The boys were quiet now. The stillness and the darkness were heavy on their hearts. They continued walking, and soon they came to the place where the floor seemed to end. With the light they could see that they were on a hill, leading to another rock floor below. Tom said,
Now I will show you something, Huck.
He held his light high.
Look as far as you can around the corner. Do you see that? On the big rock? Tom, it is a cross. That is where I saw Indian Joe, Huck. And where's number 2? Remember what he said? Under the cross.
Huck said in a shaking voice,
Tom, I want to go away from here.
What? And leave the money?
Yes, leave it. Indian Joe's spirit is there. No, Huck. His spirit is near the door where he died. That is 5 miles away. No, Tom, it would guard the money. I know about spirits, and you do also. Tom began to think that Huck was right. But then he had a different thought. Huck, his spirit would not be near a cross. Huck agreed. Tom, I did not think of that, but it's true. We must go down there and find the box. It was not easy to go down the hill of rock to the floor below. Tom went first, and Huck followed. Near the bottom of the great rock the boys found where some person had been eating and sleeping, but they found no money. Then Tom took his knife and used it to turn over the earth behind the great rock. The knife touched wood. Huck, you hear that? They pulled away some stones and some old boards. Behind these there was an opening under the rock. With his light, Tom went down. Huck followed. Tom went around a corner and shouted, "Huck, look there!" It was the box of money. There were also 2 guns. "We have it," said Huck, putting his hands among the pieces of gold. "We are rich, Tom." "Huck, I was always sure that we would get it, and we have it. Can I lift the box?" He could lift it, but he could not carry it. They put the money in their 2 bags and carried it up from the hole under the rock. "Now we want the guns," said Huck. "No, Huck, leave them there. We will return and use them some other time. I think it is late, and I am hungry. We can eat and smoke outside in the boat." After eating and smoking, they returned up the river. It was dark when they arrived at the edge of the village. "Huck," said Tom, "we will take the money to Mrs. Douglas's house. I know a place near there to leave it tonight. Tomorrow morning we can count it and divide it, and then we can find a place in the forest where it'll be safe. You wait here now and watch it. I'm going to get Benny Taylor's little wagon." He soon returned with the wagon. They put the bags of money in the wagon and started toward Cardiff Hill. Near Mr. Jones's house they stopped to rest. Mr. Jones came out. "Who is there?" he said. "Huck and Tom Sawyer." "Come with me, boys. They're all waiting for you. Let me pull your wagon. It is very heavy. What do you have in it? Nothing of value, I'm sure of that. Boys will always work for things of no worth. Hurry now." The boys wanted to know why they should hurry. "You will learn when you arrive." Soon they were entering Mrs. Douglas's house, leaving the wagon near the door. All the important people of the village were there. The Thatchers were there, the Harpers, Aunt Polly, Sid, Mary, and many more. All were dressed in their best clothes. Tom and Huck were covered with earth from the cave. Aunt Polly's face was red when she saw Tom's face and clothes. Mrs. Douglas took the boys to a bedroom and said, "Wash and dress now. Here are new clothes for both of you. Come and join the others when you are ready." Chapter 32. Mr. Jones's Surprise Fails. Huck said, "Tom, we could run away. We could go through the window." "Why do you want to run away?" "I can't join that crowd, Tom." "Oh, that is nothing to be afraid of. I will take care of you." Sid appeared. "Sid, why are all these people here?" "Old Mr. Jones has a surprise." "But it won't surprise many people. Most of us know it already." "What is the surprise, Sid?" "It is about Huck following Indian Joe and the other man to this house. But it won't be a surprise. You'll see." He laughed. "Some person told about it." Tom said, "You told. There is only one person in this town who would destroy a good surprise. You. Now go away, or I'll throw you out of this room." Some minutes later, Huck and Tom were eating at a big table with the others, when Mr. Jones stood up to speak.
He told the story about Huck. It was true that it did not seem much like a surprise, but people tried to seem surprised. Mrs. Douglas thanked Huck again and again. She said that she would give Huck a room in her house and send him to school, and that later she would give him money to start a business. Tom said,
Huck won't need it. He is rich.
People tried not to laugh. Tom said,
Huck has money. Perhaps you do not believe it, but he has. I can show you.
He ran outside.
What is Tom doing now?
Said Aunt Polly.
I never can understand that boy.
Tom entered carrying the heavy bags. He opened them and let the yellow gold fall out on the table.
What did I tell you?
He said.
Half is Huck's and half is mine.
All looked. None could speak for a moment. Then they asked Tom to explain. It was a long story, but it was full of interest. When Tom finished, Mr. Jones said, I planned a surprise for this evening, but this surprise makes mine seem very small. The money was counted. There was more than $12,000. Some of the village people owned land and were much richer than Tom and Huck, but none had ever before seen so much money at one time. Chapter 33. New Adventures Planned. Tom and Huck's money was a great wonder in the poor little village. You may be sure of that. It was not easy to believe that the money was real. People talked and talked about it. People went hunting for more money. Boys went, and men went also. They hunted in every old lonely house. All watched Tom and Huck and listened to them. Every word they spoke had become important. The village newspaper had a story about them. Mrs. Douglas put Huck's money in a bank. Judge Thatcher did the same with Tom's. Each boy had money to spend now. He had almost $1 for every day of the year. In those days, $1.25 a week was enough to buy a boy's food and clothes and to pay for his schooling. Judge Thatcher had a good opinion of Tom. He said that only a very wise boy could have brought Becky out of the cave safely. He expected Tom to become a great man. Huck Finn's life had changed. His sufferings were almost too great for him. Mrs. Douglas had taken him to her home. She kept him clean. He must sleep every night in a clean bed. He must eat like a gentleman. He must go to church. He suffered for 3 weeks, and then the next day he was gone. Mrs. Douglas and all the people in the village tried to find him. They were afraid that he had drowned in the river. Early on the 3rd morning, Tom Sawyer went to an old building outside the village. He found Huck. Huck had been sleeping behind the building. He was lying there now, happily smoking. He was covered with dust, his hair was wild, and he was wearing his old clothes. Tom asked him to go home to Mrs. Douglas. Huck's face became sad. "Do not talk about it, Tom. I tried it. It is not for me. She is good to me and friendly, but I can't live with her. I must get up at the same time every morning. I must wash. I must sleep in the bed. I must wear those good clothes. I can't move in those clothes. I can't sit down. I can't lie down. I can't roll on the ground in them. I must go to church. I must wear shoes on Sunday." We all live like that, Huck. Tom, I'm different. I can't live like that. It is easy to get food. Mrs. Douglas won't let me smoke, and she prays all the time. I had to leave, Tom, or I would die. When school begins, I would have to go to school. Tom, being rich is no good.
I wish I was dead all the time. I like these old clothes. I like this place to sleep. This is what I want, Tom. I'll give you my share of the money. You can give me 10 cents when I need it, but not often. I do not like what is easy to get. And you go now and explain to Mrs. Douglas.
Oh, Huck, you know I can't do that. And if you try longer, you will like it.
Like it? Yes, I would like it as I would like a burning coal if I sat on it. No, Tom, I won't be rich and I won't live in the house. I like the forest and the river and a place like this for sleeping. But now we are rich and all our games, like being pirates, are destroyed.
Listen, Huck, being rich won't change that.
Is that true, Tom?
It is true. But if you want to join me and the other boys and belong to my club, you must live like us.
Tom, is that friendly?
I want you to join us, Huck. But all the boys who join Tom Sawyer's club must have good characters.
Huck was quiet. There was a battle in his mind. After a while he said,
I will return to Mrs. Douglas's for a month. I will try if you will let me belong to Tom Sawyer's club.
I agree, Huck. Come with me now, and I promise to ask Mrs. Douglas to change a little, Huck.
Will you, Tom? That is good. When will you start your club?
Oh, soon. This evening, perhaps, we can have the first meeting.
What will we do at the meeting?
Well, we will promise always to help others and promise never to tell what we plan to do, and promise to kill any person who hurts one of us.
I like that, Tom. I like it.
And we must make those promises in the middle of the night in a lonely place and sign with blood.
This is better than being a pirate, Tom. I will stay with Mrs. Douglas, and we will have adventures that will make the whole village talk about us. And then Mrs. Douglas will be proud because she took me into her home. A few words to end. So ends this story. Because it is the history of a boy, it must stop here. It could not go much further without becoming the history of a man. Most of the people in this book are living yet, and are happy. Perhaps someday the story will be continued. Therefore, it will be wise to tell no more now.